Since the end of slavery, Black people have been debating, arguing, and fighting and bickering about what's the best alternative for Black wealth. Is it politics, get involved in the political system, or is it business? Start a business and make money. But guess what? This argument probably is never going to end because guess what? There were men way more smarter than me over 100 years ago having the same conversation, but today it continues on. All right, so today I want to talk about a debate that happened at the Black Blockchain Conference over the weekend. And I'm going to review Jimmy Williams. Y'all just saw Jimmy on last week with me, right? He happened to go to the Black Blockchain Convention. If y'all don't remember from last week, I talked about it, right? Because I was there last week, but I didn't get invited this year, or I think I actually messed up something, all jokes aside. I think I messed up something actually, but it was still a great event. But from this video that he put up on his By the Hood page, make sure y'all go on over there and subscribe to his channel. I was thinking like, man, this is the same stuff over and over and over again. And I began to think about Booker T. Washington, W.E.B. Du Bois, and Marcus Garvey, but particular W.E.B. Du Bois versus Booker T. Washington, because that was the big showdown. You know, back in the day, Booker T was all about gaining advancement after slavery through acquiring skills, especially trades. W.E.B. Du Bois, his argument, by the way, these arguments are being truncated because they're all nuanced, right? But W.E.B. Du Bois said, hey, let's get more educated so we can be involved in a political system, so we can defend our rights in this country, because we know there's always something. Now, if y'all know me, I'm a big fan of history. And so I've been talking about and thinking about this a lot. Many of you who watch this show probably already know where I stand with this all. And by the way, if you don't know what you're watching or who the heck I am, my name is Kamari Ellis. This is the Finance Rebel Show. I am the Finance Rebel. We do this show every Wednesday at 8 o'clock. And I'm on time this week, y'all. So, but again, I wanted to get into this conversation with Dr. Jared Ball, Professor Dr. Jared Ball, and the father of DeFi. If y'all don't know what DeFi is, look it up. But Reggie Middleton, excuse me, y'all. Reggie Middleton. So they had a very spirited debate. And there's another brother by the name of Lamar Wilson, but he didn't really talk as much. He made a lot of great points, though. They all made great points. And I wanted to talk about that tonight on the Finance Rebel Show. As always, I answer your money questions. So if you have any questions about business, taxes, economic, stock, be sure to throw them in the chat. And make sure you put a Q in front of that, and I will get back to it before the show is over. But let's get going. Let's get going with this conversation, y'all. It's a good one. Y'all tell me what y'all think.
No, we do. You gotta put your hands down, though. If you're gonna be aggressive like that, brother. Wait. Hold on. Everybody. No, you have to step.
Now, you already see it, right? Said put your hands down. If any of you grew up in the hood anywhere, you already know what that's about. Feeling threatened.
That can come right here. But you gotta give love. Wait, you gotta give love.
Answer the question.
No. You gotta give love.
What's up, people? This is Jimmy from By the Hood. So listen, this past weekend, I had the honor of serving on a panel at the Black Blockchain Summit at Howard University in Washington, D.C. It was an amazing event. But in the middle of one of the sessions, I happened to be in the hallway and caught an interesting debate between Dr. Jared Ball, who's a professor at Morgan State. He was speaking with Reggie Middleton, the father of DeFi, as well as Lamar Wilson, who is the founder of the Black Bitcoin Billionaire Collective. So I thought it was an interesting debate. I actually got to engage a little bit, but you won't see none of that here. But some of it I did record, and I wanted to share, with the audience here.
Now, this is Jimmy's, the By the Hood page. So make sure y'all go on over there and subscribe to By the Hood over on YouTube. Now, I might get in trouble. Jimmy might might take issue with this. He might throw a copyright claim at me. So go over there and show him some love so he don't throw a copyright claim at me, y'all.
Let me know your thoughts about this debate. The debate was in terms of organizing for policy versus, building our own through capitalism. So,
policy versus business, right? We're going to boil it down to its most basic compound, right? Policies versus business, right? Getting the bag.
It was kind of a debate about capitalism, which was an interesting debate. And anyone who follows our channel know that we speak often about policy having to play a major part in our freedom here in this country. But I thought it was an interesting debate nonetheless. Salute to all three of these gentlemen. I love to get different perspectives from different people, but I wanted to share this part of the recording with everybody here. So let me know what you think. Leave a comment. Let me know who you agree with, who you disagree with, or just your thoughts overall about the conversation that was happening here. And also shout out to all the organizers from the Black Blockchain Summit. Can't wait to be back again next year at Howard University and, get to share energy and thoughts with our people. But until then.
Now, I said it wrong. I said the Black Blockchain Convention. It's the Black Blockchain Summit. I should have known that because I was there last year, but my bad. Get back into this.
Leave us some comments. Let me know what you think.
They are.
Absolutely not. But
Now, just to narrate this, right? Jimmy's the guy with the camera behind it. He didn't say much. Dr. Jared Ball, shout out to Dr. Jared Ball. He has a show as well in a channel called Black Power Media. So y'all follow him too. They have a lot of great conversations as well.
Made fortunes for the Trumps.
So the light-skinned brother with the glasses again is Dr. Jared Ball.
The people look, take what I'm trying to say.
Again, you haven't let me.
No.
Now that's Reggie Middleton right there, and there will be some tags as well.
I'm glad you said it. Cut off.
Now that's Lamar Wilson. I just realized me and Lamar are actually Facebook friends. I just haven't talked to him in a while.
Remember when this video started, he had already gone.
Look at me, hold on. When I come back.
I'll vouch for that. I'm ready to get it.
Let's go.
Let's do this.
So again,
I'm just sitting back.
the problem that you starting with, again, starting with the policy and all that you just skip over. We're just gonna put a grocery store somewhere. And we're not talking about where the groceries gonna come from, who's delivering the groceries, who's all of that requires relationships to an economy that is broad. So that's why Marissa Baradaran said, as quoting others, you can't say.
Marissa Baradaran. I don't know that name. I'm writing it down. I'm going to look it up. Does anybody else know who that is? If so, put it in the chat. By the way, if you're just now joining, I'm Kamari. Introduce yourself. Let me know where you're hailing from. And let's have a great conversation, y'all.
You can segregate people, but you cannot segregate an economy. No one's wealth started because they started a small business, circulated their welfare, and developed business.
Now, that point right there, I had a problem with because I disagree. And again, I love Dr. Jared Ball. He's a G. But if you go back and you look at Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart, that business was created primarily with his brother, then his wife and his children, and Walmart still exists to this very day. And it's a very boring business, and they're still doing billions of dollars every year. By the way, I don't know how much Walmart makes in terms of revenue every year. Somebody throw it in the chat for me so I don't have to look it up. So help me out.
And wealth for their community that they now have accumulated. That's not how wealth is created. Their wealth was created, again, primarily through violent conquering, violent accumulation primitively of land and business and resources, suppressing labor, all of that. Then they come in and they a few businesses. Look at what happened to the black billionaires as he's labeled, at least.
So that is very much true, right? Most wealth, when you look at it, came through some kind of conquerorship, right? People came conquering, exploited folks. They, black people are the great example of that, right? They were oppressed, whipped, beat, raped, men and women raped. Nobody ever talks about that. But that's true. However, ever since we had the invention of the steam engine, things have changed a little bit. So technology changes things. Technology changes things.
Don Peoples. He tried to do what you're all claiming. He said, I'm going to do in New York City by building this whole, put in billions of dollars, and he couldn't get the public policy permits. He was not allowed to come in there. Why? Because they said your customer base is black. They don't make enough money, and there's not going to. Therefore, you cannot have a wealth generating business or block or land or whatever on the basis of poor people. Black people are held poor through public policy.
So, I mean, that's well documented. That's very much true. Public policy, probably the greatest, the worst, the most oppressive. Redlining is a form of public policy, which illustrates his point, right? Look up redlining when y'all have a chance. Y'all should already know about it, though, right? Especially if y'all rock with me every week. So redlining has very much been oppressive to Black wealth in the United States. And when you really think about it and you look at who created the hood, well, redlining did, right? White supremacy did. So just think about that the next time you say, I'm pledging allegiance to the streets. Well, to me, then you're now pledging allegiance to white supremacy. But that might be a little bit too philosophical.
Exploitation. If we want to change that, we need to gain access to the policy, the political power that says if you create wealth, whether you're a genius in DeFi or a genius in Bitcoin investment or a genius, it doesn't matter. If you create wealth, all of the poor people who support that economy by going to work and buying your products and cleaning your streets and picking up your trash, they should eat too. Okay. They should have vacations and health care too.
So,
let me break it down.
I'm going to let you go. But after that,
by the way, real quick. This is the question I want to end on because I don't want this to be left on video or anywhere else to Jared's ability to make the perfect argument in this moment. So this is why I want to ask you.
Now, I will say this. I love the whole image of this, right? You got a whole bunch of Black folks in the background. Forget about the one guy over Dr. Paul's shoulder, right? But everybody's enthralled in this conversation, an intellectual conversation. We don't really get to see that in mainstream media, right? They'll talk about how we shot up somebody or how we robbed somebody. And sadly, in Philadelphia right now, there's been a lot of looting going on, right? So pray for Philadelphia. However, we don't get a chance to see a whole lot of smart Black folks talking about smart Black folk things. So shout out to Dr. Jared Ball and Reggie Middleton and Lamar Wilson. So let's get back into it.
What evidence beyond the false claim you've already made that any oppressed community has overcome their economic material inequality through business and dollar circulation?
Okay.
So
the first part of
any examples?
Let him talk, and I will answer
the first part of this is that you can always keep going back.
Now, you know it's got to be really, really heated when folks got to give out the ground rules to get everybody to talk.
And going, this is not happening. This has not happened in the past. These things don't happen in our communities. You can go back and do that. Or you can take the model that we've seen others use, like he just said. This man went into his community.
Not everybody can do the same thing.
That's
say, my point.
No, this is what I'm telling you.
To say that Black people, I am cutting you off, but to say that Black people, I admit it. But to say that Black people,
now, you know you can't have a good argument with Black folks without somebody getting cut off. It's just the rules of engagement.
Who have a very particular history in this country, relationship to this country, can somehow do what others do. Is part of the mythology that my work is trying to.
That is part of the mindset that stops them from doing that.
Agreed.
That's the difference.
Agreed.
Right? Listen, bro, I tell this story all the time. I told you where I was at. I was literally.
You gave me an individual anecdote.
No,
we could all do that, but the point is the community doesn't benefit.
So if my seed can't grow a forest, like I said, if one person can't go out and do it, and where was you saying? What community was you in?
Fort Greene.
In Fort Greene. If one dude from our community can't go and do it, then of course nobody can do it. But the moment you have one seed that can do it, inside of that seed are many other seeds. You have to teach and train.
That's the mythology. That's capitalism. Capitalism tells you that because one did it, everyone else can do it. But that's exactly.
So I have a hard time with that one. I know everybody loves the dog capitalism. I think a lot of times we use the term wrong. It drives me crazy. But I also think that when people see great things happen, a lot of times they are inspired by great things. And when you realize you can do something great, good, marvelous, whatever word you want to use, it does inspire a lot of people who are already on that path.
You see, he cuts
So
me every
he
room.
did. Okay, so
I'm just gonna let him talk.
Let me
I'm
just
just
jump
gonna chill
in.
for a
So
minute.
first we're
I'm
gonna
chill for a
address
minute. Go ahead, right here, right
what they
here.
call the mythology, but it's not really mythology.
Yeah.
I said I saw in Fort Greene. Fort Greene was one of the most violent communities in this country. Not in the city, not in the state, in this country. Okay? Last year, anybody saw me speak last year?
I know
Right?
you got, I get it.
Right?
Again,
What
what does that
happened?
have to do with it?
I'm going to explain it to you
And I
because
want the example. You said you were going to give the example.
brother, you also wanted the uninterrupted, correct? Give me that leeway.
Now, does anybody else get that same adage that he doesn't want to be interrupted? I do think, to be fair, right, I do feel that Dr. Ball is a bit of a bully, just a little bit, right? But I get it, because being a bully can also be being passionate. And I am accused and guilty of cutting people off when I have conversations with them. And I don't want to be a bully, right? So bully might not be the right term to use, but he's very passionate. And he was passionate last year at the Black Blockchain Convention. He had a whole storm going on. So what do y'all think? What do y'all think about this conversation so far? Do you think Dr. Ball is a bit passionate, right? Is he a bit of a bully with this? He's not really letting a lot of people get a word in edgewise. He's not listening. He's not listening. And I'm going somewhere with this, right? Because I see this all the time in our community. Now, tell me what y'all think so far about this conversation. Let's get back into it.
Okay, so he's asking the question, where was wealth created due to reinvesting in the economy? That's a false premise.
The question restated, falsely restated my question.
Okay, state your question.
When has an oppressed community circulated its own wealth or resources to overturn its economic?
I would also say the Jewish community did that. I think that's very well documented. If you go and do the research, right? They were at the bottom of the barrel in Europe. Even when they came to America, they were at the bottom of the barrel. They are not at the bottom of the barrel now. But I'm Monday morning quarterbacking this whole thing. I wasn't there to see this.
Inequality or material inequality or political inequality.
Okay, and the answer is it doesn't matter because nobody's addressing that, right? You want to know where wealth came from. Does anyone know where wealth came from?
Break it down for him, Reggie.
Okay, well, that's a good question.
Break it down for him, Reggie.
Listen, that may be a good question, but for those who are seeking wealth, they don't really want to hear that question. They want to know, where does the wealth come from? Would you rather hear that or where you make the money? Where you make the money? Okay, so we'll let someone else address him. I'm going to tell you how you make money, right?
Now, to be fair to Reggie, I actually hate that. He's right, though. He's 1,000% right. But there are so many things behind an idea. There's so much nuance and details behind a thing. And your average person, again, he's right. Your average person just wants to get to the meat. They don't worry about the potatoes. Meat and potatoes, just care about the meat. Let's get to the main course. And again, he's right. He's right.
I'm into making money, right? No, I'm going to
You
address
said you can give me a specific example.
a specific
to my question.
example, of what you're talking about. Because, listen,
You
he's
just
trying to,
go ahead,
now
go
what's
ahead.
happening,
He
he's
just
trying to
changed
adjust the
it.
argument, right? Most people don't know how to become more wealthy, either individually or as a group, okay? So if you want to know where it comes from, it is owning the infrastructure. Once you own the infrastructure, you own everything else, okay? Infrastructure is what guides politics, right? The dog wags the tail doesn't wag the dog.
Totally bad.
Okay, so I understand that, but
So I don't totally agree with that, but I get his point.
I'm living proof. I'm not wealthy, but I have witnessed a lot of wealth. I've made a lot of people wealthy. And I don't mean 1 or 2. I don't mean a dozen. I don't mean 100.
That's what
I made
capitalism does,
thousands,
creates wealth
right?
for other people. So of course you've made other people.
Okay,
wealthy.
but
we all have made other people.
but what does my shirt say?
I mean, listen, talk about talk your shit. I mean, talking to that, I mean, he's got proof. He is the father of DeFi. He is unequivocally.
This is my shirt say. The father of DeFi, right? With all these.
Now, again, the reason I'm talking about this is because it really made me think about Du Bois, W.E.B. Du Bois, and Booker T. Washington. I mean, it's like the same old thing over and over and over again.
Conferences about New York and in Tokyo and in Singapore, decentralized finance. I created that.
So he's just creating a commercial that he's claiming is a response
No. I'm explaining. Right? DeFi is the infrastructure for value transfer. The Federal Reserve, the bastion of capitalism. Right? Rumor has it, because I can't say it personally. Rumor has it that they do something that
I didn't put this back on the screen. My bad, y'all.
Okay. Goldman Sachs, Citibank, JP Morgan, the bastards of capital.
All right, hold on, y'all.
I'm not special.
I got so into watching the daggone conversation again that I forgot to share with y'all the screen. So hold on. My bad, y'all. My bad. I'm a fan, though. I'm a fan, and I love all the stuff, and I'm very passionate about it. But as much as I talk about it, I can sit back, watch, and listen to. I don't got to be the one running my mouth.
Finance, I created that.
So
hold on, let me bring it back a little bit. There we go.
My shirt say. What does my shirt say? The father of DeFi, right? With all these conferences about New York and in Tokyo and Singapore, decentralized finance, I created that.
So he's just creating a commercial that he's claiming is a response
No. I'm explaining. Right? DeFi is the infrastructure for value transfer. The Federal Reserve, the bastion of capitalism. Right? Rumor has it, because I can't say it personally, rumor has it that they do something that infringes on some black man's hand. Okay? Goldman Sachs, Citibank, JP Morgan, the bastards of capitalism. I'm not special.
So how does you the infrastructure bring wealth? I mean, this is a long commercial.
That's right. It's not a commercial.
Yo, Dr. Ball be throwing mad shade at folks, y'all. It's funny though, because we all do it. All right. Let's get back.
So this is the explanation. I am not special. I explain. I grew up. Look, I got gunpowder. I got 357 point blank in the front, out the back. Right? I've been shot at many times. I got scars everywhere. Right? I grew up in the fire, and I was a good boy. Right? But I'm here. I'm not special. But I learned that if you own the infrastructure, everybody has to come through the infrastructure.
So again, Marx made that.
That's like making that toll road, right? So somebody built the road, somebody put a toll up, you got to pay that toll. That means they always have a revenue stream. They always have cash flow.
Clear a long time ago. The owners of the means of production that's the owners of the economy.
Is that a good thing? Is that a good thing?
So excuse me.
Wait, no, you can't. Excuse me.
No, it's not a good thing.
Okay,
that's what Marx's critique was.
Okay, but you can't say wait. He's interrupting.
Wait a minute. You just asked me to answer the question.
I usually moderate. You know, in the room, I usually moderate. So hold on.
So he said,
you know what? That's what we gotta do.
Okay, so it's like this. I'm gonna wind down.
Go ahead.
So he said the owner controls things. Okay, if you want your community to control things, the way to do it is for them to own the infrastructure.
And how do you do that? Political power, the owners of society.
So you do have to have political power to own things, right? That's a fact. It's you can see it through the beginning of times, right? You do have to have some kind of political clout, some kind of political power to truly own a thing, control a thing, and not lose a thing. We always talk about getting the bag. We never talk about defending the bag, whether it's physically, intellectually, legally. You got to think about the whole thing. And I feel like that's one of the biggest missed opportunities in much of this Black wealth conversation. Got to defend the bag. All right, let's go back to the conversation. Y'all, what do y'all think about the conversation so far?
Tell you what, I'm going to challenge that. I'm going to end up.
Here's the time. Here's the thing. We're going to have 3 minutes for everyone to speak. No over, no nothing. Yeah.
Take this
Listen,
on stage during lunch.
Somebody gotta reclaim their time. If somebody interrupts, they get that money.
You gotta
Yeah, you already know. All right, you ready? So here we go. That's the clock. So we're gonna go 3 minutes.
Okay.
All right. So who's going first?
Yeah.
His argument is he said, give an example, and I'm just gonna say this. That's just like somebody before the 4-minute mile saying, give me an example of somebody running a mile in under 4 minutes. That's crazy. Of course, if it hasn't happened, doesn't mean it won't happen. No,
Now, I think Lamar, I don't know if he's watching this or will watch this, because again, I know we are Facebook friends, but I think, in my opinion, I thought that was a bar. I think, matter of fact, I thought that was a great bar, right? Because a lot of times we get so caught up in what somebody else has done, what we haven't done, what nobody else has done. Well, who cares? Why not keep trying to do it yourself? The Wright brothers, before they took flight, they had naysayers. Noah's Ark had naysayers, right? There's always going to be naysayers until you do it. And just because somebody didn't do it before you doesn't mean that it's not possible. So, you always got to keep that. You always got to keep that in mind, right? Just because somebody else couldn't do it does not mean it can't be done. So to me, that was one of the biggest bars of the night, if I'm tipping my hand off a little bit. But here, let's get back to it.
that's exactly the thing.
No.
So go ahead.
Okay. So
You ready?
You
ready?
No, man, that's disingenuous.
Everybody can speak. Right?
Because that's not
You
the same
can't go
thing.
back and say this thing has not happened, so it will never happen. Past performance does not dictate future performance.
But
For the record, right? That's that's an investment thing. Past performance is not an indicator of future results. I've heard it so many times. In compliance commercials, it's crazy.
making claims about what will happen in the future based
But we can take other. But every time I bring up some
You
example,
just- no.
you say it's not black. They're not black.
You said
They're not
wait,
black.
wait,
Those people aren't
that's
black.
not what happened. You're misrepresenting.
Now, did y'all hear what they said? You hear what Lamar said specifically, right? A lot of times people, black folks, will discredit something because it wasn't done by black people. And that's not a thing. If anybody could do it, yes, there could be circumstances that might block you, bar you from being able to get something done, but that doesn't mean that's impossible. You might have to be able to think through or work through another solution, another workaround. But just because somebody else, black, didn't do it, doesn't necessarily hinder your process, right? So keep that in mind, y'all. Keep that in mind.
Then you said, first of all, the initial question was cooperatives.
Yeah.
So that's why I pointed to the history that shows that they don't work. So if you're going, wait a minute, because if you're going to say we should do something, and then you want to ignore the history of the decades of data showing that project doesn't work.
Did you just say it doesn't work?
You're being
Before my man ran the 4-minute mile, nobody did it. That don't mean
Wait
it's
a
not
minute.
going to
The
happen.
equivalence would be if I said no.
And there was all kinds of data to say that 4-minute mile could not be ran. I think 5 was the most done, or the fastest speed. And I think that man's name was Roger. I can't think of anybody know who ran the 4-minute mile. Excuse me. Anybody know who ran a 4-minute mile? Because he broke the record. And a lot of people said he couldn't do it. Let's see here. 4-minute mile. 4-minute mile. Right. Roger Bannister. There we go. Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile record in 1954. Listen, I can't run a 4-minute mile now, but a 4-minute mile is a completion of a mile run, 1.6 kilometers in 4 minutes or less. It was first achieved, and I'm reading from Wikipedia, it was first achieved in 1954 by Roger Bannister at age 25. And he did it 3 minutes, 59 seconds. That's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive. So let's get back to this, y'all. Get back to this.
human being has ever broken a record that has ever been established.
Let me go back.
The equivalence would be if I said no human being has ever broken a record that has ever been established. That would be the equivalence you're looking for. Saying that no one can break the 4-minute mile because it has never been done is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you are ignoring all of the history that suggests that you are.
I'm not.
Yeah, given what you said is true.
Because
Yeah,
no,
we can
you
shut
haven't.
this down. Look,
Okay.
So you can't say you've researched it if you're also ignoring all of the critique of it. And why was there a critique? Because the cooperatives, even the ones that exist today, they're limited because they're based on satisfying a community that doesn't have
so
any
this is
money
going to
and
sound
cannot
rude,
attract
and I'm not
outside-
rude. I'm not
outside
being
investors.
impolite, but I'm going to ask. Right? I'm definitely not doing much respect to you, brother.
He's
Okay.
gone.
Right? No.
You done?
So no. Okay. Are you well versed in wealth?
No.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Have you created wealth?
No.
Okay.
Oh yeah, no, wait. I have for other people. I create wealth for other people all the time.
Okay. At what level have you created the wealth? At the level you're discussing?
I am just like the rest of us, part of a community that has produced about $150 trillion in wealth for the 1% who own it
How
last
much
year.
have you created?
About $150 trillion
You
for
created
other people. For other people, yeah.
Okay.
I'm a worker. I'm a part of an economy.
Right. So being part of an economy does not create 150 trillion.
That's exactly
Right.
wrong.
Let's assume.
What you're saying is
let's
I thought
assume-
you said you understood.
Okay,
wealth.
so let's assume the economy you talk about the U.S. 330 million roughly. You created 331 million of that wealth.
No, like everybody else who shops, pays taxes, goes to work, puts gas in their car,
Right.
like all of those other people.
Right.
I and all of them created that wealth for that 1%. And I'm saying the public policy we need would redistribute that so we didn't have all this inequality that leads to these ridiculous arguments.
Wait, no.
What political movement has?
Okay.
What political movement before this has changed
Okay.
the entire
So
situation
first
for
of
Black
all,
America?
so wait a minute.
So I
First,
can-
wait,
I can answer
hold
that.
on, wait a minute.
But I can't answer that.
We
No,
can't.
economic.
No.
I can't answer that.
I'm trying to get this point across.
Yeah,
So I listen to what he said.
I'm waiting.
I listen to what the brother said. Right? Parking your car, putting gas in. That's not creating.
Then when you don't understand the
So
economy. then you say that.
okay. So
Complete
no
misunderstanding.
problem. Now let me speak.
So it does create wealth, right? Just doesn't create wealth for the consumer. It does create wealth for the producer, manufacturer, creator, and distributor. So there is a form of wealth creation created there, economically speaking. But no, there's no excess value created for the person pumping the gas or lifting the cotton or any of that. But again, I think this is a great conversation. Let's see. There we go. All righty.
Okay, he says he does that. I'm a guy who claims to have patented one of the greatest wealth creations, right, of this generation, right? I've said I've made over 1,000 million, close to 1,000, not over. I said I predicted.
You said 1,000 millionaires, y'all. That's talking this shit. And I'm not biased. I like them both.
Okay, when you create wealth, you create excess value for yourself or for others.
That's what I just said.
Absolutely, it
Okay,
does.
so
You don't understand the economy. You misrepresenting the economy to
brother,
your audience.
okay, so I'm gonna let that go. I'm misrepresenting the economy. The brother said he's not wealthy and has not created wealth.
And this
I
is
go-
going condescend the idea that
No,
poor
okay.
people can't understand the economy.
No. I didn't say poor people.
You say if
So, brother,
you
now
said
it's
you're
very
not-
difficult.
You be shooting from a different gun.
Okay, wait, no.
You said that right thing too.
Now, I'm going to say this. This is a very heated conversation, right? But I can feel the love that's there and the respect and the admiration that's there. Even though there are total opposite ends of the spectrum, they're still able to have a conversation. It might not be the most productive, right? But it's still good. Brothers can still have a conversation. Brothers get animated. I get it. Sometimes, though, people can't do that. So, I think that's something that's noteworthy here also.
He's been interrupting me ever since I started. So I'm trying.
And he does interrupt a lot. Dr. Ball does.
I'm trying to speak.
You put out the Durin
I'm
Joe
trying
now.
to speak uninterrupted, brother. You're
Okay,
not allowing
you
me to do it.
changed. You
So that's right.
changed
Put the
the whole
focus.
tenor of the-
Put the
you
focus
playing
on me.
games up here.
So number one,
No.
I'm not doing this from a disrespectful perspective, but I'm saying you can't go up to someone who doesn't know how to drive a car and listen to give advice on racing. Okay?
Just like you can't go to people
and-
who are exploiting working people and expect them to give you an honest
Okay.
assessment of that
So,
exploitation.
so fair enough. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go up to K Street, right? We're in DC. This is a political bastion of the country. I'd say the world, because this is the world's leading economy. Okay, K Street does not listen, right, to professors. K Street obeys
You're
what?
disrespecting your audience by not explaining.
Oh,
that
wait, bro.
Yeah, Dr. Ball's got to be. He won't even let him talk. Jeez.
Bro, wait.
Where the lobbyists are.
Okay.
The lobbyists take
Put
the
the-
money
put my
from
camera over
the
here.
business people.
Because the brother's not letting me talk uninterrupted.
But you're-
I'm gonna
but
let you speak.
But he's
No,
also
not when I'm
misrepresenting
speaking.
the
No.
whole- your
So, brother,
audience is being
do me a favor,
disrespected.
brother.
You got
Let
it.
me finish.
And both you guys are on the frame.
Okay, so listen.
All right. Take a shot at my brother Jimmy. Jimmy, why didn't you shoot this in landscape? He shot it in vertical. They both could have been in the frame. Where Jimmy? Well, I didn't want to bring Jimmy out tonight, because he already feels like he's one half of the Finance Road show. But had he at least shot this in landscape, sideways, horizontal, you could have had them both in. Would have been a problem. All right, let's get back to it. That's me messing with Jimmy.
That's disrespectful
So,
to your audience.
K Street respects capital.
What is K Street?
Okay, K Street respects capital.
What is K
The
Street?
lobbyists respect capital.
What are
Okay,
lobbyists?
so lobbyists are people who are paid by capitalists to make changes.
To impact policy
Okay,
makers.
so listen, the way you're doing it,
Exactly.
the way you're suggesting is absolutely powerless.
No, it's
It
not.
has never worked in this country once.
So you're saying that social movements have never impacted this society?
No, I'm saying the social movement
Public-
have never.
wait.
He's asked the question.
No, I did. I said
He's interrupted me.
I said social movements. So what we need, political movements. You
Okay.
said they've never had any impact.
And what impact have they had on K Street relative to the capitalists?
K Street.
Just answer that question.
K Street.
No. Answer the question.
Does everybody know what K Street is? Put in the chat. Let me know. Do y'all know what K Street is? Because I do believe that social movements can run some things through K Street. They have run some things through K Street, but for the most part, capitalists run K Street, and capitalists run the United States, or corporations, I should say. Corporations run K Street. But tell me what y'all think.
K Street was developed to be a response to political movements in the street, so that lobbyists would have a direct pathway to politicians without having to listen to other people in the street. That's what K Street
But
exists
you haven't
for.
answered the question.
I am answering the question. K Street exists
What?
as the capitalist answer to us.
That's not
the
an answer to the
people's
question,
movement.
Black man.
Answer the question. Ask the question.
What social movement, or how did the social movement?
I'm saying-
Listen, how did the social movement affect K Street relative to the capitalists? What did K Street do?
K Street
to
doesn't
respond?
exist without the.
I think Dr. Ball misunderstood the question. So the question was, what has social movements done that have made capitalists stop using K Street, right? And they haven't, if that's true, right? They don't. Capitalists do what they do. And yeah, they will affect policy for their benefit. And they really don't care about social movements, right? Even when we go back to George Floyd and BLM and all that, the only reason why the corporations, because corporations run K Street, they run the lobbyists. Go look up. There was the Supreme Court. There was a Supreme Court case that basically gave corporations unlimited giving power via super PACs and using K Street. Citizens United. That's what it was. So look that up. But capitalists really don't care about that. And again, going back to my point about George Floyd, BLM, when all of the protests and the rioters, the peaceful rioting for the moment, and then when it got crazy, that was the only reason why corporations started to make a change. The corporations didn't really care though, in the grand scheme of things. Because if you look at it right now, it was what my homegirl Rhonda says, it was a feel-good Negro moment where all the corporations were giving money and scholarships and jobs, putting money in black banks. All of that is just about done. Only thing that could possibly get that back is a massive uprising in the streets. And I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. But let's get back to this convo. It's a good convo.
That's not an answer to the question.
How can you tell?
That's not an answer.
And it's not an answer to the question. He didn't answer the question.
Telling me that
You understand? Anybody understand the question?
Reggie,
Explain it to the brother. Go ahead, explain the question to the brother.
he didn't even hear the question. Reggie, wait, why are you bringing him in to answer my
Because
question?
you're not answering. No, you're not answering.
Now, he had to bring the brother and stop the brother from eating his chicken, or I'm not sure if it's spare rib, because he needed some help because Dr. Paul's not listening.
You don't know. You don't like the answer because you don't understand it. Or because you don't
It's not that. So the U.S. issue is fundamental, and we've had this conversation. He's talking individual wealth. You're talking scalable. Like that's not true. No, that's not true. Because even when you're talking right now, you're saying the wealth I created for other people. You're not talking about the that you created for the community, which he's concerned about. Because if you were saying that you created 1,000 millionaires within our community, that's different than you said I created 1,000 millionaires. That's them who's already creating wealth.
Where the millionaires are created? Where are they? No, don't ask me a question. You didn't answer. Wait. I asked you a question.
From what you're saying, you said the Federal Reserve is using parts of your patent. You said J.P. Morgan Chase is using parts of your patent.
I didn't say that. I worded it differently.
Goldman Sachs, and we know that the shareholders and the ones who are benefiting from that are the
All right, check that out. The myth of propaganda and black buying power. Now, shout out to Dr. Ball, right? Now, he talks about that because he talks about the myth of the black buying power and the way that it's sold and spun and marketed and pimped. I agree with him on that. 1,000%. But again, it's a deeper thing. It's a more detailed thing. And what happens is, and I've talked to y'all about this a lot of times, there are a lot of uneducated, stupid people out here that don't pay for education. They don't pay for professionals. And so they let people talk about the black buying dollar or the power of the black dollar and being super blackity black and pulling our money together. But it's only for the benefit of the organizer, not for the investors. So they're scam artists, right? Sorry, I took a little long to say here, just scam artists. But that's what he's talking about a lot of times. And I respect him immensely for that. Double shouts, Dr. Ball. And damn it, I said all that and I didn't catch the thing. There it is. I'm so enthralled into this overall conversation again. The myth and propaganda of black buying power. In a lot of ways, it is a myth. It is. And people pimp it for their own advantage. And it's really, really sad. But all right, let's get back to it, y'all.
You're avoiding my question. Where are the South millionaires that created wealth?
in America,
Are
Japan,
they
China.
are they in our community?
Are they black? The 1,000 million? I don't think so.
But you don't know, right?
I would say I don't know.
So, and that's sort of the point.
So, that's a great point for Reggie, right? He said, where are my millionaires? Y'all going to try to talk down that they're not on the black community, but you can't identify them. You cannot identify them.
And then what he's saying is like saying, without
We need to get on the stage together, him and I, right?
research. No, because
All right, so that's the end of that conversation, y'all. So, again, I say it's like Booker T and W.E.B. Du Bois, right? Who's right, who's wrong? They're both right, if you really get at it, right? And I saw some comments, and they're saying that Dr. Ball's right, and I think I saw that said Reggie Middleton was right. But guess what? They're both right. But they're talking about two different things. Reggie's talking about microeconomics and personal finance. Dr. Ball is talking about macroeconomics, more global trends. They're two different things. However, I do think it's bad form to act like microeconomics and personal finance done together cannot form macro movements. And so that's where I would say the flaw for Dr. Ball is, I would say the flaw for Reggie is he ain't even thinking about mass movements. And I ain't mad at either one of them for it, right? Because you do need both. However, it's really hard to do both. It's really hard to do a mass movement because even if you're going to do a major political movement, do you know how many people it's going to take? Do you know how many forces are upon the Black community? I mean, redlining's still here. COINTELPRO is still in the mix. It's really hard. Every major mass movement of Black folks have had COINTELPRO involved with it, including BLM, Black Lives Matter. So it's really hard to really put your head around both of those. But it is a bit easier to put your head around. Well, I'm an individual. I want to go to work or start a business. I'm going to live beneath my means. I'm going to save my money. I'm going to invest my money. I'm going to invest with my people, the people I trust, right? I'm going to rinse it, wash it, repeat it, do it over and over and over again. I don't think that's hard to do. I don't think that's hard to do at all. How do you get Black folks to vote in the block? Malcolm X told us to vote in the block in the 60s, over 50 years ago. We ain't done it yet. A lot of us don't vote at all. That's a whole other conversation, right? But if we're talking about politics and public policy, well, how are we going to force that if we can't even vote in the block? If we can't even talk about voting, who's important, who's not important, who's got good policies, who doesn't have good policies. So I don't know. Y'all tell me what y'all think. Take a quick drink of water. But again, I thought it was a great conversation. Salutes to both of them. I will say this though. We need more people who want to have conversations and not cut people off. Listen, be humble, and listen. You might learn something. You might adopt a new strategy or learn a new tactic. There wasn't a lot of listening in that conversation overall. But all right, Still Rocks 33 say I think he was the first one in the building, so salutes to him. Dr. G is in the building. And George said, damn, Walton also raised capital through his community. He did. He got money from his brother and from his wife, and I believe his wife's father. So yeah, absolutely. Don Johnson's in the building. What's up, Don? My man Lawrence is in the building. The neighborhood finance guy, the host of the Finance Rio show. Lawrence, I owe you a major apology. I was supposed to be on Lawrence's show, and life got life, and the kids got kidding, and the wife got wife. So I wasn't able to make it the other day. So my apologies, rather. All right, so Lawrence says, what's up from the DMV? I think he might be mentioning Marisha, right? Yes, the author of the Color of Money book. Absolutely. Now I think about it. I was thinking about the Color of Law. I've read that. I haven't read the Color of Money. I need to go back and do that. All right, so George says, does it have to be a monolith? Both are true. I agree, George. I agree. Both are true. Both are true. But what do y'all overall think about the conversation? Is it about political policy? Is it about politics? Is it about business? I mean, the one thing that I haven't heard anybody say that politics are very important, because your business can be ruined by politics, by public policy, with the swipe of a pen or an email or a simple phone call or a text message. It happens a lot. Mm-hmm. All right, Lauren says there are too many people married to their own ideas. I agree with that. And fight for their ideas without listening to others. Yes. And that is, ladies and gentlemen, ego. Right? And we all have it. We all do it. I know I do it. Sometimes I don't even let people get their stuff out. I mean, y'all probably have seen it on the show, right? Because I already know what you're going to say, and then I jump ahead. But that's rude. And that's not even really honoring the humanity in a person, too. So it's bad. It's bad. And we all do it to a certain degree. All right, Don Johnson. Dr. Ball's right. The type of wealth the community needs is created and maintained through policy. So wealth is definitely can be created and can be maintained through policy. But here's the thing, and this is what we got to think hard and deep about. Right? This is not pre-1965. We are post-1965. Right? And many will say that's 1965 is when the United States became a democracy. Right? So with all that said, if the community needs public policy to do it, then the community needs to understand the power of politics. The community needs to understand the power of public policy. The community needs to understand the power of lobbying. The community also will need to understand the power of voting. And I don't have a whole lot of faith that that's going to happen anytime soon. And so the community can only get and achieve what the community understands and fights for. And I don't know if the community is ready to fight for that. Just being honest. Let me know if you agree or disagree in the chat. All right. But I agree, right? Again, redlining is probably the greatest example of how fucked up public policy is for Black people. And it's still evident to this day. When we look at crime, right, in Black communities, the first thing you should think of is not that Black people are savages or that we don't love one another, we don't like one another. You should think that, damn, there was a public policy that forced Black people to live in cramped houses, crowded spaces, dilapidated real estate, all the times, couldn't get insurance in these places, couldn't get mortgages in these places, and could only live in certain places that the public policy deemed were livable for the newly released shadow property. Right? I mean, you got to think about it. A lot of times these narratives on mainstream media lack context, lack nuance, lack details. And we just go with the soundbite, the 30-second, the 15-second, the minute soundbite. But sadly, enough of us are not reading in depth to get true understanding, and it's hurting us. It's really hurting us. So I would say in theory, he's right, but there's a difference between theory and application. And the question is, you can make the theories come true. The question is, how long does it take? And is it worth the wait? So, all right. George Danger says, political power is a farce. How so? To the degree that that control, it does not have to let you in without a toll. Let me reread that. Political power is a farce to the degree that the control does not have to let you in without a toll. Well, listen, there's an episode of Martin with the plumber, white plumber, right? And the one thing he said that always stuck with me, when Martin asked him, well, how much is it going to cost? He says, well, it may cost you a little, it may cost you a lot, but it's going to cost you. And that's everything in life. There's a cost for everything in life. There's a cost for success. There's a cost for greatness. There's a cost for love, right? Might not be monetary cost. It might be time, energy, effort, all those things. But it is a cost. And a lot of times people don't know the cost of a thing. They might know the price of everything, but don't know the cost of nothing. So think about that. Think about that. There has to be a first. I disagree with that, George. Sometimes you can walk and chew bubblegum at the same times. However, I will acknowledge and agree that it's rare. Most people don't have the ability to focus on multiple things at the same time, right? Multitasking is a farce. All right, so Lawrence says, I don't agree with that premise. I can learn from non-Blacks and Blacks equally. So Lawrence is talking about basically the comment there when they were talking about, did this impact somebody Black or white? And Lawrence is saying that he can learn from anybody. I can learn from anybody too. However, if you ever notice, I only put up certain people that look like us. And there's a reason for that. Yeah, we can learn from everybody. But I'll say this, there was a video talking about a certain person, and I might do a reaction to this, but it's talking about a certain person who's always talking about a crisis. The stock market's going to crash. Crypto's going to crash. Real estate's going to crash. That's their whole playbook. And they just so happen to be anti-Black. But many of us in the Black community love this guy. Even myself, at one time, I had a good amount of respect for him. Not anymore. Because I don't believe in supporting anti-Blackness, racism. I don't care how, quote unquote, groundbreaking their work was. Because I believe, this is me, this is the finance rebel, this is Kamari talking, that anytime we study, admire, or worship someone who clearly is a racist or clearly anti-Black, we're letting a piece of that anti-Blackness into our soul. And I can't afford any of that. Right? Their ideologies, their thoughts, it can be really subtle, but sometimes it can sneak in and get you. And a lot of times you won't even know it. You won't even know it. I mean, think about this. Think about all the Black conservatives there are. And I'm not talking about real Black conservatives, right? I'm talking about the Black conservatives that are on the news and on shows debating, and they're all getting a check from some right-wing organization. And for the most part, they're lobbying, fighting, and speaking against their own self-interest in their own community. But again, that's a whole other conversation. All right, George said that's phenomenal. I'm not sure what part you're talking about. That's phenomenal. All right, history. Yes, indeed. Yep. All right. Being a part of an economy means you're creating wealth. Being a consumer creates wealth for other people. Yes and no. Yes, it does. In theory, yes, right. But think about it like this. Part of the reason why Black people are so unhinged is that Black folks don't buy from Black folks. And I'm speaking, generally speaking here, right? Of that 1.8 trillion that everybody loves to talk about, only 2% of that is spent with Black-owned businesses. So that means we're making a choice not to spend money with our own businesses that directly impact our businesses. Why? Who's the biggest employer of Black people? Black-owned businesses outside of the federal government. Federal government doesn't count. In private industry, Black-owned businesses are the biggest employers of Black people. So it only makes sense to spend money with Black businesses. And again, there's other things, there's more nuance to this, but again, you have to think about that as well. So every time you go buy a coffee, every time you go buy a sandwich, every time you go do something, it is an act of wealth creation, whether it's for you or someone else. Now, no, primarily it will not be for you personally. It will not be for your family personally. And most of all, it will not be for your community mostly. However, it can be. That's all I was saying. That's all I was saying. Hola, Nia's in the building. Everybody shout out to Nia. I'm surprised she's not traveling somewhere. All right. No, I don't. All right, so no, you don't get anything out of this, Nia? I'm sorry. All right, George says that resulted in nothing meaningful. Well, the reason why I say it's meaningful because it's 2-3 brothers talking, right? They're building. They got something going. And they're able to showcase that because of the genius of Jimmy, even though he shot in vertical, should have shot in landscape. Y'all tell Jimmy I said that. But I still feel that's a beautiful moment, right? We don't have enough Black people conversing, right? Or as some would say, conversating in a positive tone. So I would say there is some value there, right? Even though it's only a symbolic one. And I know some people don't like symbolism. I get it. All right, where had policy created that for the community? All right, what policy are you talking about, George? I'm sorry, I should have took notes on everything. All right, so George says it's harder when the micro ain't in place. Yes, it's absolutely harder when the micro is not in place, and a lot of times we what's the word I'm looking for, y'all? We don't, a lot of times we underestimate, right? We underestimate the underdog. We underestimate the small micro movements. But listen, everybody knows this because everybody's talked about this in personal finance. If you go out to eat every day and you're strapped for cash, normally that is creating a cash hole in your budget. Those little acts of finance, personal finance, or lack of personal finance add up in a negative way. So it weighs you down. So the same way that it brings you down on the negative side, it can bring you up on the positive side. So a lot of people don't realize that. Gloria Miller, I thought you were my cousin at first. No, I'm not impersonating Barry White. But welcome. And I'm a big Barry White fan. So shout out to you for that. All right, hey lady. Hey Tamlin. It's my tax sister right there. George is my tax brother. Sometimes we fight like cats and dogs, but it's all love. It's all love. All right, so Nia says, no, I didn't know who was the business K Street was. Oh, K Street. Okay. All right, so K Street is a street in Washington, D.C., where a lot of lobbyists are. And what do lobbyists do? Lobbyists typically are paid to go and talk to people in the government and get their policies pushed. Whether it's like, I'm sure Elon Musk is lobbying government for EVs, even though Ford is getting a lot of the EV business from the government, right? But they want those tax breaks from the government because Tesla has benefited from tax breaks for electronic vehicles for his car base. That's why they made so much money. Or that's one of the reasons why they made so much money. So, all right, so what else we got there? Oh, and I just actually returned from traveling. Oh, and I can see she's sashaying and she's twisting her hips and twirling that neck. But guess what? I'm sure she's going on vacation in another 2 weeks somewhere fun, somewhere exotic. And listen, I'm jealous. So I'm going to talk about trash. But just remember,
it's only entertainment.
It's just all in fun. But that was the thing I wanted to talk about today because I thought it was a good conversation. I think I might have let George down. I'm sorry, George. Sorry I let you down, brother. But I thought it was a good conversation, right? Because black folks have been having the same argument for over 100 years. And while I am glad that they were there at that event, right? But I think we should have more progress than what we have. Now, again, like I said, 1965, that's kind of when black folks got all of their rights. Some would argue that we don't have all our rights, but just on paper, that's when they got all our rights. So about 50 years. We're still infants in this whole wealth space. It's when you really put it in that context, it makes sense, right? It makes sense why we are not further along. However, we've not had more opportunities. Our ancestors have not had more opportunities than the opportunities we have right now. We're on the Facebooks, the YouTubes, the Pinterest, all of those, the Twitters, or is it X now? I don't know which one it's supposed to be. But we have opportunities, right? I'm naming these people that are in this chat. I know a lot of them personally. I've met them personally. All of that because of the power of the internet. So we're able to have conversations and do business together. That's a powerful thing. That's not something that should be taken advantage of. That's not something that should be taken for granted. Excuse me, y'all, I misspoke for a minute. But that brings me to this other point. I keep having this conversation online about capitalism, consumerism. Now, I'm going to bring up something else from last week's show that's gotten some traction. So a lot of times I'll take some of the clips from the show that I like or that I feel will resonate with people, and share them on my YouTube, on my TikToks. I don't give TikTok enough love, but on my Facebook, any of those, right? And there's one video from last week that's doing relatively well. And on my Instagram, some people have had some things to say. And again, I find it really interesting, some of the conversations that we have. But I want to share this, and he'll get to see this, right? He didn't say much on this clip, but there's some other ones I have of his that will be going up soon. So I want to show this clip from last week, and then I want to show you some of the thoughts that people have about it. All right. And for everybody that's listening in the chat as well. So this is a YouTube short here. I might get in trouble because of the music.
Push, everything can be done for profit.
Oops. Let me ask the panel a question, and for everybody that's listening in the chat as well. Y'all just brought up something. My question is, what would happen if the Black community in America totally divorced itself from American consumerism culture?
If you look at the trends and how things are going when it comes to social media, what's happening in those trends and what's viral, what's not, who's the start of that? It's us. So the minute you remove, like, we literally are Black gold. If you remove us out of it, right? If you remove us from the entire system, because we like, you know what? We're done. We're going to go ahead and go communicate with our ancestors and meditate and align our chakras. Somebody is going to have a full connection. Because the reality is we are the Black gold.
Let me ask the panel a question. And for everybody that, right, I thought that clip was awesome. A lot of people thought it was awesome. That clip has gotten over 2,000 reviews and a good amount of comments. Some non-knowing people were like, Black gold, what are you talking about? So this comment says, LOL, Black gold, good gracious. All right, then there was a couple others, but there was a couple of comments on my Instagram. Give me a second, I will bring this up, and I told them I would talk about this tonight because I really don't think we study enough, y'all. And we make comments that are really unfounded. By the way, I got an announcement for y'all too. I had something great happen to me this week. I'm going to share with y'all. I think some of y'all might appreciate it. But I want to share this here. Now, I shared this clip on my Instagram, the same clip y'all just watched. So I'm not going to have you watch it again. But there was some of the commentary I thought was really, really, really interesting. So I'm sharing this here. And there was a good amount of exchange. I think Lawrence even got in the mix on this one. So Uncle Phil 100 says the real reason consumerism has dominated the world is because it hits the deepest part of our minds and instincts. It is hard for anybody to separate from that. I would agree with that. Actually, I'm going to pin that post. I think that was probably the best post of the day. Now, Black Buffet says she didn't answer the question, and I hate this word, y'all, but I'm just repeating it. I think niggas will always be vanity slaves. And then Liz West says vanity upon vanity. Okay, maybe. Then it says it's actually really crazy. And the more I travel, the more I realize it's BS and a big waste. So I do believe consumerism is a major waste. All right, especially for the Black community. And let's be clear, y'all. Everybody's a consumer to a certain point. So I'm not even trying to shame anybody for buying food, for buying bread, for buying shoes. Every act of buying something that you need is an act of consuming, right? But, you know, we need stuff to live. We need stuff to live. But this point again, like you said, but that's what they want. They want us to be big consumers. We are big business to them. We are. We are absolutely big business to them. And that's why they disrespect the holidays. They disrespect us. I mean, monkey shirts and all kinds of stuff in their commercials, bleaching themselves white or washing their black off to become white. Like some of these commercials that run on media are wild, beyond wild. So Liz slid in and was like, I'm just here for the comments. But we set the bar and standard of consumerism, and our culture is used to capitalize on it. That's a fact. That's a 1,000% fact. And I don't understand why people would have a problem with that. But again, I know certain people don't really read, don't really seek to comprehend. Now, my man Garrett says, what does removing ourselves from American consumerism look like? I thought that was a good question. And I just asked him, can you imagine it? Because going back to the main conversation that we had about things never happening before and things not having the data and the precedent to do it, a lot of times we can't even envision ourselves doing any of these things. So that's why it will never happen. Not because it is physically impossible, but a lot of times a person or persons can't see it. You know how they used to say, if you can see it, you can achieve it. I believe that. I know that might be a little bit too woo for some of us, but I do believe that. I absolutely believe that. So here, this one, Rebel Scum 2157, yes, they can. The issue is not just consumerism, it's capitalism. And then there was a whole back and forth again. He says, well, what drives consumerism? And then you could probably guess what he's going to say. Capitalism. Capitalism drives consumerism. I actually would argue the different. So consumers are a byproduct of the need to sell. I would disagree with that again. If we were socialists, you would more likely buy based on need, not by not by psychological manipulated into extreme ones. Well, if that was true, Cuba is a communist country. They have a major black market there, right? This is no diss to anybody. Russia, major black market there, communistic country. There are billionaires there, right? And many of the people that talk about this capitalism versus communism things, well, if billionaires are not needed, why are there billionaires in communist areas? Why are there oligarchs there? Well, here's the deal. Here's the deal, y'all. None of these systems are utopias. None of them are perfect. People are always going to people, and people are greedy. That's the one thing I would say with utter certainty. Other than that, for me, it's maybe this, maybe that. No, people are greedy ASF, right? But I don't know if people are willing to put down their ideas, as Lawrence talked about earlier, and say, well, maybe it's not the ism. Maybe it's not even the class. Maybe it's just people are dicks. Excuse my language. But they are. All right, so Nia said, yes, she's traveling FinCon in 2 weeks. I will see you there. I'm going to FinCon again this year, y'all. All right, Don Johnson says 1968 Fair Housing Act. Yep, that was a major case of legislation. So I guess you put that up there, Don, the challenge, the 50-year thing I've put up, as I said, 65. I was referring to the Civil Rights Act, I was referring to the Voting Rights Act. And then you also had the Voting Rights Act, they're like 64, 65, and then clearly you got Fair Housing Act of 1968. So yeah, I mean, all of that around that 50-ish time frame, if that's where you're getting to. I'm not exactly sure. But what do y'all think? What do y'all think? What is the solution for creating true black wealth? Is it politics? Is it business ownership? What is it? I'm going to tell you what I think. I think I already told you. I'll tell you again. It's both. I think a great example of this was A.G. Gaston. So A.G. Gaston bailed Dr. Martin Luther King out of jail. A.G. Gaston was in Birmingham, Alabama. King was down there marching. A bunch of others from SNCC and NAACP were there marching. They got locked up. A.G. Gaston, who did not even like what King was doing, by the way, the entire black church did not appreciate Dr. Martin Luther King, but that's a separate aside. A.G. Gaston said, well, you know what? He is fighting for us. He's fighting for us. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is and bail him out of jail. There's a lot of instances like that. There's a lot. Sadly, a lot of those don't get publicized. So, you know, this whole image of all business people are evil, all rich people are evil, comes out of a lot of that same tradition, if that's even a thing, right? But again, people don't dig deep. We just lie on the surface and we just assume that the thing is right. We hear something, it sounds cool, it sounds slick, and we just run with it. And a lot of times that does our community a lot of harm, a lot of harm. So again, talking about this whole thing about culture, consumerism, capitalism, the question ultimately is going to be is, who do you want to be? Who do you want to be? And what are the people you want to be around? I talked to y'all a lot about scammers, but I'm actually tired of talking about scammers because a lot of people are like doing these things, won't take the time to process a thing. What I mean, process, think about it, do research on it, research it, learn about it, get a book about it. No, they just say, all right, they're doing something cool. It's fly, it's fun. I want to do what they're doing. I want to be like the cool kids. And then they get their money taken from them. I don't feel any empathy or sympathy for them. I think we all have a duty to protect ourselves at all times, just like they tell boxers. Protect yourselves at all times when you're going into the ring. Protect yourselves at all times when you're looking to do a business transaction. I don't think that's too much to ask. And yes, there are a lot of people who scam people, right? Like real deal scam. A lot of our seniors, right? I mean, if you just do a Google search of life insurance or annuity sales with senior citizens, and a lot of that scams. A lot of times people are taking advantage of these folks. I'm talking about able-bodied, able-minded, or at least I think they're able-minded. They appear outwardly to be able-minded, right? Those are the folks I'm talking about. If they won't take their own initiative to protect themselves and their money, how much energy should I direct it at? I mean, at some point, people got to learn. All right, so let's see what Don Johnson's got to say. Don Johnson's in the building, says, I think we should focus on capitalism first and foremost because in this day and age, it's an easier task. So one more time, I think we should focus on capitalism first and foremost because in this day and age, it's an easier task. Well, not only is it an easier task, it's the thing to do. All right, and Don says, but both of them are the correct answer. Is that what everybody thinks? Is that why nobody's chiming in? Chime in, let me know what y'all think. Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. That's the thing you can control. I mean, sure, if you want to create a communist party and maybe go to another country, you could do that. Maybe that could work for you. I think a lot of people are lazy, right? And they don't do research. And they say, well, you know what? I want to be a communist. But they haven't really done the research to really, really stand on that. Or it's just the easier position. Or maybe they've just said, you know what? F it. I'm never going to amount to anything wealth-wise. Why even try? Why should I save my money? I should just spend on whatever I want and not try to save or create a legacy for my children's children. I mean, again, if you realize that this thing is bigger than you, I would think you would make bigger moves or different moves. Live beneath your means. Save your money. Invest your money. Get insurance. By the way, it's September. It's Life Insurance Awareness Month, y'all. I hope you all take this time out to really review your life insurance policies to see if you have adequate coverage. Sometimes to see if you even have coverage at all. And to at least go back, if you do have coverage, look and see who your beneficiaries are. I know a lot of people, I run into a lot of interesting situations. And I'll just say this, I can't say too much, right? But I run into a lot of situations as it relates to romantic relationships where one of the partners might still be married to, involved with, entangled with a previous or same time still engaged or entangled persons. And I've seen instances where people have passed away and they left their money to their previous spouse because they did not change their beneficiary designations. So the money went to somebody else that they did not want it to go to, all because they did not take the time to review their policies. I've seen it happen with life insurance. I've seen it happen with pensions. It's happened very, very often. You will be shocked. You will be shocked. But, take time, review those things. They're very important. If you really want to make sure your loved ones are set up in the way you want them to be set up for, and the way you are paying for them to be set up for, it takes 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 3 minutes to review a policy, or to review a 401k, or to review an annuity plan, or to review a pension. Point being, you got to look after your stuff. You can't just set it and forget it. Doesn't work like that, people. Doesn't look like that at all. So if you all have enjoyed this conversation, have enjoyed this broadcast, do me a favor, like this broadcast, right? Do me a favor and share this to someone else, and also subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. And remember, if you want to hang up with me, or oops, that's the wrong number. I'm messing up, y'all. Time for me to get my vittles. If you want to hang out with me and text me, make sure you join the text community, 215-974-0058. Again, 215-974-0058. Because y'all know I believe all these social media spots are nothing but a form of sharecropping. I don't own these lands, virtual or physical, right? So if you like what I'm talking about and want to stay connected with me, text me, 215-974-0058. All right. So until the next time, y'all, remember, the Finance Rebel Show is here every Wednesday, 8 o'clock. I was even on time today, y'all, 8 o'clock. So make sure y'all hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, and I will catch up with you all next week. Until then, be great, stay hopeful, and do some exercise, y'all. It's important. Have a great day. Yeah. Later, y'all.